Hello once more, my Western friends. As you may or may not remember, in a previous video we took a deep dive into internal workings of chat reporting to examine what makes it possible and all the wonderful ways in which underlying message signature system can be circumvented and exploited. But as it turns out, the failings that I covered were nothing in comparison to the giant hole that was there all along. The ultimate failure of this entire system, thanks to which people can get you banned for literally nothing. So let's gaze into that gaping abyss before the gaze is back. In previous video, we have taken a look at what kind of data your average player chat report includes, which is obviously quite important because that is everything Mahjong's moderators will have to work with when they make their judgment. Just a brief recap. For every message you have selected for reporting, provided evidence would have included 4 messages that were sent in chat before that and 2 right after, whatever players they came from. This has been adjusted in release candidate, and now instead of 4 preceding messages, they will get 7. However, they also decreased how many messages you can select for report from 10 to 4. So, all other things equal, the amount of context reports can now provide have actually decreased. In fact, a lot of people were astonished when they learned how many messages report evidence includes, because they expected that Mahjong would get like an entire chat log, not just a few surrounding messages. But no, I've seen it in the code and that's how things work. Now, remember how I told you about the crucial role that message signatures play in the system, because they ensure that you cannot just fabricate the evidence for your report. But what if I told you that even with the system in place, you actually can? Since an example is worth 1,000 words, let me give you a demonstration. Here we have a nice, chill conversation that I had with another player while playing on server. We exchanged a couple hellos. I asked his opinion on black people, to which his reply was the same as on all others, which is quite indiscriminate. I asked him what he thinks about creepers, and he replied that he hates them and would prefer them to not exist. Nothing incriminating here, right? Well, so long. Of course, I cannot alter the content of his messages because the signature would become invalid, and I do not have his private key to recreate it. And by content, I don't mean just text, I mean everything that is included in those curly braces, because all that is a part of data against which the signature was generated. I cannot alter user ID, so cannot make it appear as if the message was actually sent by a different user. I cannot alter the salt, although I'm not super interested in that because it's just a random number. I cannot alter the timestamp, which is important because that means I cannot change the chronological order in which other people's messages were sent. So far, so boring. But you know what I can do? I can take this message sent by another player and just not include it in the context. Because the only thing that is responsible for gathering the context is my own client. So I can just modify it in a way that would allow me to omit certain messages from being submitted as a part of report evidence. And for Mahjong, there will be no way to tell that they were there to begin with. Next, I remove my own message from the evidence in much the same way. And oh, look what we are left with. I ask the player what he thinks about black people, and he says that he hates them and that they must not exist. According to the Mahjong's new community standards, this is an instant ban. And oh, I didn't tell you this in the previous video because I kind of forgot to consider how this will work, but when you get banned after being reported on a modern Minecraft version, you will not be able to play multiplayer on any Minecraft versions. And if you wonder why, the reason is very simple, because servers rely on Mahjong's authentication services to authorize every attempt of the client to join them, so that they can be sure you are playing from a legit account and not on pirated version of the game, for instance. And when you get banned from multiplayer, Mahjong services will refuse to authorize your attempts to join servers, in much the same way as they would if you weren't logged in from a legitimate account. I think there is some deep irony in paying $25 for the game, only to have Mahjong tell everyone you didn't actually buy it. But I will leave locating that one to you. Now, obviously I'm giving you this simple, idealized example, but this is barely scratching the surface of all the wonderful ways in which context of the report can be manipulated. Apart from not including some of the messages in the evidence, you can actually make up messages that were never sent to begin with. Not other people's messages, because for that you would need their keys, but you can make up your own, or alter the contents of everything that you have sent, because you have your own private key and can recreate the signature accordingly. So, you can just insert a message supposedly from yourself at any point in the chronological order of other people's messages. Let me demonstrate this on slightly altered example. Suppose completely different person, not me, have asked my player of interest what they think of creepers, and they replied that they hate them. I wasn't a part of this conversation, but I just so happened to be on the server at this time and received their messages complete with signatures, which I now am about to misuse. So what do? I remove the actual question that my target received and insert my own question, which I never actually asked, and which makes their reply look incredibly discriminatory and offensive. And since my message is also complete with signature, everything will appear completely legit to Mojang's moderators. They can verify that you didn't make up the contents of other people's messages, but they will never know there were messages that never made it to them as part of your submitted report, nor that you fabricated a couple messages that were never actually sent by you to the server. I fear to even imagine how creative those people who will professionally abuse this system get with such opportunities. You can incriminate anyone by just carefully manipulating the context that surrounds their messages. Obviously, it will take someone tech-savvy enough to create tools that will allow your average Minecraft player to exploit this, but believe it or not, that's just a matter of time. Someone will do it, and then a ton of people will get around abusing it. And no one is safe from this. If you ever play multiplayer on 1.19 and further, every message you send in the chat can be used to incriminate you. Even before realizing this, I was incredibly concerned by how many problems those signatures and chat reporting system have, but this just goes on to show that it is a complete failure. People will get banned for nothing because this was made a part of the game. This is the reality we now inhabit, and remember, all this is enforced upon us under the guise of our own safety and security. This sounds like a bad joke at this point, but I'm not kidding. Look at their articles, they tell us right in the face that this will increase our safety and security. Then why Mojang/Microsoft? Why I cannot recall a time in my entire experience of playing Minecraft when I would have felt more unsafe and more insecure with what this game tries to do? But alright, that's enough words. Can we do something to protect ourselves here and now? Yes, luckily the answer is yes, we can and we should. Right now I am making a mod that will allow you to opt out of this reporting system. It's called No Chat Reports. The links are going to be in the description, you can go check that out right away and read how it works right there. But if you want a brief explanation, it removes cryptographic signatures from your chat messages, making it impossible to establish that you actually sent them. Now, people might still be able to include them in the report, but I give you 99% guarantee that Mojang will not take any actions on reports with unsigned messages, because it just doesn't make any sense from security standpoint. They can be completely made up by whoever submits a report. If you install it on the server, even that will actually not be a problem, because the mod can convert all player messages to system messages. They will appear completely the same in chat, but will be unselectable for reporting, and as of 1.19.1 it will convert by default. You can also configure the mod to demand its installation on every client that joins if you want your players to be aware that your server does not support chat reports, and then they will not be able to open the reporting screen in the first place. However, as much as you can use it in server-only mode, it can actually work in client-only mode as well, because by default you can actually not send the server your public key and send all your messages without signatures. There is an option in server.properties, which is called enforce secure profile, which is hopefully disabled by default. However, if server owner chooses to enable that, you will be forced to send only signed messages, and it would not let you join otherwise. That's one way in which this mod may not help you from client side, but I really hope that it's going to be an exception and not the rule. My mod supports both Forge and Fabric, and I intend to update it to 1.19.1 within 24 hours from when respective mod loaders update. Now, if you run a Spigot server and you want this as a plugin, I recommend that you check out No Encryption. I didn't make it, but from what it says, it should accomplish almost the same job for you when installed on server as my mod would. For now, it lacks some of the features my mod offers, but it's very new, so I'm sure that whoever makes it will catch up on this. But that is not all. As much as it is great that we can modify the game to fix this problem and protect ourselves, just because we can do it does not mean that the problem does not exist. It is incredibly important that we stand united as a community and combat changes enforced upon us without our consent in every way possible. We have to make Mojang/Microsoft understand that we will not tolerate this, that this wave of protest will not die off in a day or a week or a month or ever until they completely retract those failed systems from our game. And yes, I say our game because Minecraft have only reached the peaks upon which it resides today, thanks to the community, thanks to all the people who have bought, played and supported the game across all these years. Minecraft is a thing today because of people such as you and I. Whoever owns it now, they must be reminded of this crucial truth. So, how exactly we go about that? Luckily, I can give you some directions here as well. I have just been invited to the server that is gradually becoming the heart of organized motion to protect the interests of our community. We already have a petition against chat reporting and multiplayer bans that you can sign. We are working on raising awareness on this and many other really bad things that are done with Minecraft right now, and contemplate the ways in which we can combat that. There are already people in there like Antvenom and Saucy1 who have quite some influence in this community. So join today, because every voice and every effort matters, and yours will as well. The link is on the screen and in the description. Alright, that's the end of this one. I really wanted to make a longer video which would cover more new info and relevant things that didn't make it into the last video, but this giant hole in the reporting system was worth its own. Like, I said that signature system was designed to incriminate us, but I didn't think it that literally. So I consider it my obligation to talk about this as early as possible, so that as many people as possible are aware of this before the time 1.19.1 is released. Also, shout out to OCR for pointing out what has become the topic of this video. That's really part of the reason I made previous video in the first place, to get as many eyes and as many brains on the reporting system and uncover whatever problems it has that I did not figure out myself. As before, comment, make your opinion known, ask questions. I'm going to make yet another video, but that's definitely coming after 1.19.1 is already released and we know how things will work going forward. Stay safe, and I hope we shall meet once more.